Now, the Three Martini Lunch with Greg Corombos and Jim Garrity.
And welcome, everyone, to the Thursday edition of the Three Martini Lunch. Along with Jim Garrity of National Review, I'm Greg Corombos of Radio America. Good, bad, and crazy martinis for conservatives. We're also sponsored today by ZipRecruiter. Right now, Three Martini Lunch podcast listeners can post jobs on ZipRecruiter for free by going to ziprecruiter.com/free trial. The weather travails continue this week. Jim, it's cold in Fairfax County, so that's ruined your day, or at least changed your schedule.
Yes, it has, because we can't have kids going to school in cold, can we, Greg?
That's this whole thing called winter. We still have a few days left of it officially.
Who could have seen winter coming, Greg?
All right, well, let's get on to the actual martinis of the day. Jim, let's start with the budget. Always exciting materials. The Trump budget is out. We know from past Obama budgets that these are wish lists, and these are not things that ever actually happen in their totality. But in terms of actual priorities, kind of nice. He wants a 10% increase in defense spending, 6.8% increase in Homeland Security spending, 6% increase in veteran spending, and everything after that is cuts. EPA, 31%. State Department, 28%. Agriculture, 21%. HUD, 13.2%. 12% Interior. 17.9% HHS. 13% Transportation. 13% Education. 16% Commerce. And then it gets smaller and smaller as we go. Obviously, we know that it's not going to be that easy on these spending bills. Democrats can filibuster in the Senate, for example. But it's kind of nice to see some conservative principles on paper, including the eradication of certain things like the Corporation for Public Broadcasting and the National Endowment for the Arts.
Yeah, Greg, I'm going to make a little bit of a confession here. I don't really understand why Budget Day is like, there are some people in the journalistic world who like circled this day in red on their calendars. And they really get excited. And you can kind of see some people even on Twitter, the budgetary reporters say, Happy Budget Day, I didn't even put my tree up this year. Some people exchange gifts. For some people, it's a really big deal. Now, I remember back in my days as a wire service reporter, our editors would get us everybody together and say, okay, everybody's got to take an agency. And when it comes out, you got to go through it. And you got to see what the budget's going up and where the budget's going down and what programs. And I remember thinking, but this is a wish list, as you said. This is the plan. But ultimately, it's Congress that sets up how much money goes where. And a lot of this stuff is fairly specific in the appropriations bills. The administration has and cabinet secretaries have a certain amount of discretion in this stuff, and you can kind of get a sense of their priorities and all that kind of stuff. But this is kind of like blue sky. If we had total budgetary power, this is what we would do. And I suppose you can learn a lot from the thinking of the administration, but they don't. So I'm not entirely sure why this is treated as the big deal that it is. Having said that, I do think when you put forth what seems to be a really genuinely fiscal conservative budget, you end up with something that may move the Overton window a little bit. This is the theory I think Glenn Beck popularized this. The Overton window was the idea of what is considered reasonable, what is considered normal, what is considered mainstream. And there's a lot of arguments that say, look, you try to shift things one way or the other in the Overton window. The Obama administration, it moved up pretty significantly to the left. Basically, a lot of ideas of government taking over during the crash of 2008. The idea, well, we're going to have the government own own a car company of General Motors. Previously unthinkable, and now all of a sudden it became thinkable. And the first step to getting an idea enacted is to get the idea not seen as crazy anymore. So if a conservative budget can get people saying, well, do we really need funding for the Corporation for Public Broadcasting? Can't all the money from all the merchandising of all the kids shows on there pay for some of that? Or can we at least reduce some of it? Can we, the budget can be a useful way for spotlighting programs that probably deserve to be either zeroed out or significantly reduced there. So I'm going to also, we should give a guy who did not run as a fiscal conservative as much at all in the 2016. We should give the Trump administration credit when they start sounding like a fiscal conservative. Obviously, it all depends on how this goes through Congress. But at this point, the Trump administration is properly genuflecting to the goals of fiscal conservatives and reduced spending. And so we should give him credit for that. And that makes it our good martini.
Yeah, and also good to see the influence potentially of Mick Mulvaney there as budget director. Jimmy wants $1.5 billion to begin construction of the wall. Chuck Schumer has said he's willing to shut down the government over that. Just as a quick trivia question, When Republicans refused to pay for things when Obama was president, it was their fault. When Democrats refuse to pass things when a Republican is president, guess whose fault it is?
Well, Trump fails. Fails to win approval for his priorities.
Of course it will be.
Whereas when Republicans refuse to fund vital necessities, it's the Republicans' fault. Yeah. I mean, you start from it's the Republicans' fault and you work backwards, Greg. It goes from right to left, not left to right.
The flow chart works up for the media, not down.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to the bad martini now, and let's go to the floor of the U.S. Senate. Jim, I think it's probably been a while since you and I thought much about Montenegro, probably back during the Slobodan Milosevic days when Serbia and Montenegro were making life miserable, to say the least, for different parts of the former Yugoslavia. Well, now Montenegro is having some issues. Apparently, there's been some Russian meddling, at least if you believe John McCain. So John McCain is among what appears to be the vast majority of senators who are okay with Montenegro joining NATO. There were 2 Republican senators who are opposed to this, at least temporarily. Mike Lee was opposed on procedural grounds, so I'm not even sure what he thinks about the issue. Rand Paul apparently is opposed on substance. So John McCain went to the Senate floor and said this about anyone who would have the temerity to be opposed to NATO membership for Montenegro.
If there is objection, and I note the senator from Kentucky on the floor, I will say before I read this, if there is objection, you are achieving the objectives of Vladimir Putin. You're achieving the objectives of trying to dismember this small country that has already been the subject of attempted coup. I have no idea why anyone would object to this, except that I will say, if they object, they are now carrying out the desires and ambitions of Vladimir Putin, and I do not say that lightly.
Jim, I don't doubt that Vladimir Putin is probably opposed to NATO membership for Montenegro, but it just grinds my gears, and it should grind the gears of conservatives after all those Obama pronouncements over the past 8 years, that if you don't agree with me on this, you are a fill-in-the-blank, in this case, a Putin stooge.
Yeah, to quote my colleague Jay Nordlinger, Greg, you really shouldn't accuse somebody of being a paid stooge for Vladimir Putin, considering the number of possibilities of people who are genuine paid stooges for Vladimir Putin. That can't be dismissed as hyperbole in modern Washington. Because, Ed Schultz suddenly on RTTV, Larry King, all of a sudden, everybody's comfortable working for the Kremlin now. Now, look, here's, smart people who I admire come down differently on the argument about whether Montenegro should join NATO. By the way, I'm looking over from Alla Pundit at Hot Air. You know who thinks Montenegro should join NATO?
Who?
Mike Flynn, who was supposedly the Putin stooge, who was supposedly, had all kinds of inappropriate contacts with Russia. So, let's just observe not everybody is playing to part on this. Look, the argument from Rand Paul doesn't seem cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, or it's to say, look, Montenegro is a very, very tiny country that really can't contribute very much to NATO's defense. And basically, it would be making a very clear statement to Russia, but also we'd be taking responsibility for the defense of Montenegro. And it's fair to ask whether we really want to do that, whether we really want to, apply Article 5 protections to a tiny country that clearly, deep down, doesn't Russia care a lot more about this country than we do. And this is something we do have to acknowledge in our alliances. On the other hand, we don't want to back down to a bully. On the other hand, we don't want Russia to be meddling with its neighbors and things like that. If, this is the sort of thing you consult with your allies and you ask what they think and you kind of weigh these sorts of things. But man, McCain he just loves to go there. He just loves to say, well, if you disagree with me, clearly you have bad motives. Clearly you have something, your viewpoint is driven by malevolent intent. And this is, wasn't it this way? This is the sort of behavior, Greg, that we're used to getting from somebody like Peter King. You're palling around with terrorists and things like that. Never mind the fact that Peter King literally hung around with terrorists back in the IRA days of the 1980s and things like that. But anyway, so yeah, it's McCain playing to his worst stereotype. And as much as, there are times Rand Paul seems to go off the rails, this is not his nuttiest objection of all time. And we probably would be better served by a more respectful debate than what we're getting here.
Yes. Apparently the bad blood over the wacko birds and all sorts of other things that have happened over the past few years have not gone away easily. John McCain definitely knows how to hold a grudge. But people of Arizona, if you're upset about that, sorry, you just reelected him. You can't hire somebody else right now. You got to wait 6 years. But are you hiring? Do you know where to post your job to find the best candidates? Because posting your job in one place is not enough to find quality candidates. If you want to find the perfect hire, you need to post your job on all the top job sites, and now you can, because you really want to be able to see them all together. Anybody can fill out a pretty fancy resume, but the ability to see them side by side, who's actually done what, trust me, whether it's our business or your business, anybody can put on a good front, but to actually be able to compare them side by side really, really helps. And now you can do that because with ZipRecruiter.com, you can post your job to 100-plus job sites, including social media networks like Facebook and Twitter, all with a single click. Find your candidates in any city or industry nationwide. Just post once and watch your qualified candidates roll in to ZipRecruiter's easy-to-use interface.
No more juggling emails or calls to your office. You can quickly screen candidates, rate them, and hire the right person fast. Find out today why ZipRecruiter has been used by Fortune 100 companies and thousands of small and medium-sized businesses. Right now, 3 Martini Lunch listeners can post jobs on ZipRecruiter for free just by going to ZipRecruiter.com/free trial.
That's ZipRecruiter.com/free trial. One more time, to try it for free, go to ZipRecruiter.com/free trial. Jim, we have had a lot of crazy martinis. This one is probably going to end up in the upper pantheon, particularly if this crazy martini persists over the next few days. McDonald's has decided that it wants to fire rhetorical shots at President Trump. Not really sure what precipitated this, if anything. Maybe it's something he said recently or policy in the news. Who knows? But McDonald's has tweeted this morning at 9:16 a.m., at Real Donald Trump, you are actually a disgusting excuse of a president, and we would love to have at Barack Obama back. Also, you have tiny hands. Jim, it's been a while since we've dealt with the McDonald Land characters. I don't know if this means that the Hamburglar is responsible for some of the leaks or what's going on with all these different cheap shots McDonald's is taking here. You have taken to Twitter to suggest that this could just be the beginning of something very, very sinister and very dangerous on the fast food front.
It is. So we should point out that McDonald's has tweeted out since then. Twitter notified us that our account was compromised. We deleted the tweet, secured our account, and are now investigating this. So maybe they got hacked. I'm sure I haven't seen any statements from them that the toaster is still loyal, the way Anthony Weiner insisted. Oh, look, we don't know what happened. The Occam's razor would suggest at some point some hotshot millennial comes into their office and says, "Look, you old guys really don't understand social media. Let us take over. We'll make your brand hot and exciting and drive a lot of traffic and business to it. And you'll be, it's way better than ordinary old-fashioned advertising. You're loving it commercials. No. You want us to handle this on social media." And the old guys nod in agreement. Sure, let's see what happens. This person has a nose ring. They seem cool. They seem to be hip and with it and know what the kids want. And things go okay for a while until one day the millennial hipster social media consultant is really, really mad about Trump. And they suddenly say, you know what? I'm just gonna let it out. I'm gonna let him have it. That small-handed, dictator. Oh, I miss Obama. And they let it out, and they forget which account is which. And they think they're tweeting out on their personal account, and they put it out on the McDonald's account, or they plan on quitting anyway. So they're going to go out with a bang. They've got this powerful megaphone. They're going to let the whole world know what they think of Trump. And as far as the world knows, this is McDonald's itself declaring how terrible Trump is and how they miss Obama and how he has tiny hands or something. I'm half surprised, Greg, that we haven't gotten to some attempt to spin this in that the new Extra Grande Big Mac is so large, not even Trump's hands can hold it or something like that. Look, if this is the sudden radicalization of America's fast food brands, this could take some very sinister directions, Greg. I could very easily picture, doesn't it seem natural that in people losing faith in the president, so many Americans declaring their resistance, seeing Trump as illegitimate? Wouldn't Burger King want America to return to a monarchy? Wouldn't Colonel Sanders call for a military coup? Long John Silver's calling for piracy. Taco Bell saying make a run for the border before the wall goes up. So if you're on Twitter, I found the Noid from Domino's.
Nice.
Greg, this was a exceptionally short-lived advertising campaign. Quiznos subs use these two strange, oddball, computer-generated, creepy rodent characters. I don't know about you. When I think of a clean, healthy, health board approved place to eat, I want to see rodents singing the praises of a particular restaurant. I have the same thing with the rat from Chuck E. Cheese. Kind of a sense of, oh really? I wonder why you chose a rat as your mascot. So then, by the way, if you think about it, maybe there's some sort of force that could unify all of us. And I thought about the idea of a benevolent, mystical mermaid who could be everywhere at once, like from Starbucks. The Starbucks mermaid seems to exist on every corner in America, at least in my neck of the woods. Some people undoubtedly were turned to other forms of leadership and guidance. I don't know about you, Greg, but apparently livestock are now sentient.
Oh.
And urging us to eat more chicken, at least according to the Chick-fil-A ads. A lot of people said that Dairy Queen would be the natural co-ruler with Burger King in the monarchy. But eventually I kind of figured that America would get back to its true values. We would salute the heroism of Firehouse Subs, founded by firemen. And really, no fast food chain could unite all Americans quite the way the good old-fashioned frontier spirit of Roy Rogers. There's some sort of yippee-ki-yay joke we could put in there, but anyway.
Just call me Roy. Yeah, exactly right. So McDonald's going to be a fun day for their executives today. Better tighten up the ship on the social media front. And while you're at it, you might as well make your burgers taste better, too. Your fries are excellent, by the way. Jim, Ideas Summit today and tomorrow, so we won't see you or hear from you till Monday, but good luck with the summit.
Thank you, Greg. See you Monday, guys.
Jim Garrity of National Review. I'm Greg Columbus of Radio America. Thanks for being with us today. And be sure to visit our friends at ZipRecruiter. Right now, 3 Martini Lunch listeners can post jobs on ZipRecruiter for free by going to ZipRecruiter.com/free trial. Please join us again for the next 3 Martini Lunch.